Because if you have this thought of, I'm afraid I won't make more money, then you are going to keep doing the same things that have led you to not having enough time, being stressed out, overcommitting, working late nights and weekends, and probably not making enough money to make it all worthwhile. Welcome to Profit and Prosper, a podcast for entrepreneurs who are ready to make some money while doing what they love. On this podcast, we're going to pull back the curtain and talk about all things business and money. But I promise you, this is not your typical boring numbers talk. I'm your host, Sarah Young, a CPA and CFO with over a decade of experience in finance, business, and leadership. I'm going to share everything I've learned from helping my clients grow more profitable businesses and keep more of what they earn while growing my own successful business along the way. You'll feel empowered and confident that you too can grow your wealth, live a rich life, and have an impact. Stick with me and you might even start to think that finance is fun. Let's dive in. What's up, y'all? Welcome back to this week's episode. So this week, we are going to talk about how to create more time. The reason that I want to do an episode on this is that this has been an issue that has been coming up a lot lately inside of the incubator, the Millionaire CEO Incubator. This is my 6-month program where we work closely to give CFO support to CEOs who are in the low 6-figure revenue range, who are ready to stop feeling burned out, get off the cash flow hamster wheel, and be able to create a plan and implement that plan to grow their business, to increase their profits, be able to pay themselves, and start investing to build wealth using their business. And most of the time, I honestly can't think of a person who has not had to do some form of investing, hiring, building out of systems and processes, shifting offers, shifting business models. And these are all things that take time. These are things that are important, I think, to get beyond, being self-employed, meaning you've created a job for yourself, and if you stop working, then you don't make any more money. And shifting from being self-employed, or maybe from being a solopreneur, into being a business owner where the business continues to run without you. And I don't lie and say this is really easy, because it takes work, it takes time. And just something that I keep hearing from clients is, I don't have time, or I need more time to be able to do the CEO activities that are needed to move their business forward. And so obviously it's something that we address with clients inside of the program, but I thought I would do an episode here because I feel like if it's coming up there, then it is probably coming up for you too. And the reality is, time is money. And I know that's cliche, but it is very true. I think that time is more valuable to me than money. And I would pretty much do anything to have more time to do the things that I want to do instead of feeling tied to the hamster wheel. So in this episode, I'm going to talk about 4 steps that you can implement in your business to create more time. I'm not saying I'm any sort of like process or operations expert, but I have been in my business since late 2018. I'm 2.5 years in full time. I have made a lot of mistakes. I know what works now in terms of my time management for the most part. And I've also had lots of clients going through this. And so these are just the best practices that I have gathered from working with all of my clients and building my own business. Before I dive into the 4 steps, I want to say this. I really truly feel like when you say, I need more time, or I don't have time to do the CEO activities that I need to do to grow my business, what you're really saying is, I'm afraid that I won't make more money. What I mean is that I think that this concept of I have no time is really indicative to me of having a mindset of scarcity. It comes, I think, a lot of the time from clients who are sort of afraid that if they don't bend over backwards for their clients, then they will not make money. Or if they don't offer everything under the sun, then they won't make any more money. And so I think that that is really a driving force for a lot of it, is this underlying fear of, having scarcity of, if I don't do this, if I don't burn myself out, then I won't make more money. And so if you need to sit back and just sit with that for a minute, let it percolate and ask yourself, is this really what is going on inside my head? I have talked before in other episodes about money mindset and how important it is to recognize when you are having these thoughts, because it is literally going to prevent you from making more money. Because if you have this thought of, I'm afraid I won't make more money, then you are going to keep doing the same things that have led you to not having enough time, being stressed out, doing too much, overcommitting, working late nights and weekends, and probably not making enough money to make it all worthwhile. Step back and think about that, and then ask yourself, is this actually true? Is it true that if you start to maintain boundaries around your time, if you start to prioritize other things, is it actually true that you won't make more money? Maybe in the short term, but probably not true in the long term. So now that I've planted that seed in your head, let's jump into the 4 steps that I put together for you to create more time. The first thing that I think everybody should probably do, probably once a quarter, is do a time audit. So if you have never done a time audit, I highly recommend that you do one. I have done these. I pretty much do them at least 3 or 4 times every year, especially when I am feeling like things are going off the rails. And the reason is, when you do a time audit, this literally just involves keeping track of what you're doing down to like 15-minute increments or 10-minute increments. What did you do during that time? After you do this for a week or 2, you can look back and say, hey, here's where all my time went. You can do a time audit a couple of ways. You can honestly go Google how to do a time audit. I'm sure there's tons of people who have, more advice on this topic than me. I have a little gadget called a timular. It's a little cube thing that you flip over. So I sit it on my desk and I assign each of the cube sides. So there's, how many sides are on a cube? 6. You assign each of the different sides to a different sort of task. And so I don't remember off the top of my head how my sides are, but I think I have it like meeting time, team time, social media, marketing. I put break time in, I have CEO time. I just sort of bucketed my time based on how I thought I would spend it. And I literally sit it on my desk and I flip it over every time I switch from one task to the next. And it connects to a little app on my phone or on my computer. And then it gives me this nice report showing me how much time did I spend doing different things. And what I find really interesting is, how often did you switch tasks? How often were you interrupted? Because I think if you get interrupted in the middle of a workflow, if you're deep into something and then you get pulled out of it, it's really hard to get back into that focus. That can be part of the cause. If you feel like, I don't have enough time, you're constantly doing client work. Maybe you just don't have enough uninterrupted time. So I think doing a time audit, like I said, I use the timular. There's other gadgets out there on Amazon. You can also pull up a Google sheet and literally just write down, put the time in the first column in 15-minute increments. And then, throughout the day, just go back and put in the time, fill out the rows. What were you doing? I think what's really interesting is, every time I'm feeling like things are off the rails and then I go and do a time audit, I find that I am getting pulled from task to task. I'm getting interrupted by checking my emails, by phone calls, by Slack messages. I'm doing things that are not in line with how I want to spend my time. What a time audit also can help you do is, you can identify maybe there's some things that you could outsource or delegate to somebody else. And you can get a good sense of, here's how much time you're spending on this every week because you've audited your time. And so maybe you can, have some justification for going to hire a marketing assistant or a VA or somebody to help you do the tasks that are taking up a chunk of your work time every week. And it may take them longer to do those tasks, but now you have that freed up time that you can go do something else with. Step number one, I think, do a time audit. I'll be honest, it's a pain in the butt to track your time down to like 10, 15-minute increments, but it is worth it when you do it for a couple of weeks and really get a sense of where is your time going. Are you ready to create a profitable business and use that cash flow as a fire starter for building your wealth? Since you're listening to my podcast, I'm guessing that you probably do, but maybe you aren't sure exactly how this would work for your business or if it's even possible for you. But listen, I am here to tell you that it is possible because I have worked with so many women business owners who have done exactly that. You can pay yourself a six-figure CEO salary and get yourself out of the feast or famine cycle where you're worrying about cash flow all the time. You can create a profitable business model that allows you to outsource and delegate so you can take time off from your business while still growing to the next level. And you can use that cash flow to start building a seven-figure portfolio of retirement, real estate, or whatever else you're interested in. If you're an established online or service-based business owner who'd like some hands-on CFO support to increase your profit margins, build your business to the next level, and grow your net worth using that extra cash flow, then the Millionaire CEO Incubator is exactly for you. The Millionaire CEO Incubator is my signature 6-month group coaching and done-with-you hybrid program to help you map out and implement a plan to turn six-figure cash flow into seven-figure wealth. We take on a handful of new clients each month by application. So if you're ready to change your money story, go to profitandprosper.co/apply or the link in the show notes and fill out the quick application. It should take no more than 2 minutes and we'll be in touch. Now let's get back to the episode. Step number 2 is I really believe in having time blocks and unscheduled time. So I'm going to tell you how I plan. Once again, I'm not a, time management expert, at least not to the point where I'm going to go sell a course or something on how to do this. I'm going to tell you how I plan though, because I have gone through a lot of trial and error around managing my time as a business owner and as a mom to figure out what works for me. And I'll be honest, I have had help in these areas with coaches I have worked with in the past who helped me figure out, hey, maybe your time blocks need to be spent this way. How I plan is every workday, I have 3 2-hour blocks of time. So I usually get to my office around 8:30 after I do daycare drop-off. So I have one time block from 8:30 to 10:30. I have another block from 10:30 to 12:30. Then from 12:30 to 1 is usually when I'm eating lunch. I have another block, the third block of the day, from 1 to 3. And then from 3 to 3:30, I am shutting down, doing a little shutdown routine so that I can leave the office. My goal for Q1 is to be able to leave my office by 3:30 every day so that I have time to go work on some home projects and work out and cook dinner. I figured that process out after lots of trial and error and trying different systems until I figured out these 2-hour chunks of time give me enough time to work on a specific project or a specific set of tasks, kind of get in the groove there, and then, be able to really have enough time to get it accomplished, get something done in that 2-hour time block. But it's not so long that it starts to feel, out of control. A couple other things that I do, I have 2 days a week where I have no client meetings and no sales calls. So on Tuesdays and Fridays, these are no meeting days. And I even towards the end of the month, in every month there's a 5th weekday, except for February because there's only 4 weeks. But in every other month, you have at least one instance of a 5th weekday. And so I tend to also block off those 5th weekdays and either take the day off or work on projects or something because I consider them to be bonus days. So I have no meeting days, at least 2 a week, plus the bonus days every month. I also have no meetings that people can schedule during that first time block of the day, because that is usually, I have found, once I kind of get set up, when I get into my office and get set up, the best use of my time tends to be doing something either marketing related, writing an email, for example, doing a social media post, kind of I have creative energy then, or doing some kind of project. And so I don't schedule meetings except for maybe once or twice a month. I have podcast interviews and I try to schedule them during that time, but that's like 1 or 2 days max every month. Then I'll also say that I assign out of my no meeting days, on Tuesdays, I assign those to be my work days. I actually call them grinded out days. It maybe has a negative connotation. I don't mean it to be negative, but this is the day where my focus is on work. Generally, it's going to be getting through, client work, getting really into the weeds on financial statements and forecasts, models, things like that, because I need to be able to do those at a high level. I need to be able to have a lot of quiet time to use my brain. And so I have a whole day that I dedicate. And honestly, it helps me feel less guilty confining it to that one day of the week, because I used to feel guilty because I would try to do projects every day of the week, or like not projects, but client work. And then, meetings come up. I have sales calls. I have team people are paying me on Slack, and I could never get anything done. And so I'd feel really guilty about not being able to get it done. And so now I don't feel guilty the rest of the week because I know I have a nice big chunk of time every Tuesday to get that work done. So I think if you want to implement something similar, I would say what I did is I brain dumped every type of task that I needed to do in my business. And so I kind of bucketed them in like CEO tasks. What are those CEO tasks? And team management, team leadership, client work, operations. What do I specifically need to do there? Sales and marketing, and then sort of admin stuff. So I kind of listed out every task, and then I used those to sort of bucket them into different chunks where I can say, hey, I have a 2-hour time block that I'm going to dedicate to sales and marketing. And then I have this other block here I'm going to dedicate to CEO projects. The last thing that I want to say about time blocking that I have done that helps a lot is I try to leave 2 time blocks, 2 full 2-hour time blocks, so 4 hours a week, where I do not have anything scheduled, slotted in for that time. So I use a full focus planner, and every Sunday I sit down and I mark down my time blocks on my calendar and sort of high level fill in, is this going to be a meeting block? Is this a client work block? Is this a marketing block? And kind of plan out high level what I'm going to do. Most Fridays, it tends to be like the Friday, 2 of the Friday time blocks, I leave open. And I got this idea from my health coach, Tanessa, who was on one of the earlier episodes of this podcast. But she calls them sliding blocks. And she leaves them open because inevitably in life and business, things are going to come up that either take longer than you anticipated, or maybe you get sidetracked. Maybe you don't have childcare for the day. Maybe you're feeling sick and you're not able to do something on, Tuesday morning that you originally planned. And so if that happens, or when that happens, you have a nice open space that you can slide that over into and still have time to get it done that week. On the flip side, if you have that open time and you get everything else done during the week, then you just have open time and you can use it as you see fit, whether it's to work on a fun project or just to take some time off. Step number 2 is to really sit down. I think after you do your audit, look at the things you were doing and figure out how can you better fit those into different time blocks during your week so that you can be more efficient and effective with your time. Step number 3 is around boundaries. And this one, if you have any sort of hesitation around boundaries, a lot of times it goes back to that scarcity mindset that I talked about earlier. That if you don't do everything your clients ask you to do, then you will not make any money. They will hate you. They'll leave you. I've been there. I've had those thoughts. Not having boundaries. What do I mean? I see this show up with clients where they do everything that clients ask them to do, whether it is in scope or not in their contract. They overcommit. They act like everything is urgent and needs to be turned around like ASAP. They maybe overpromise, right? Or they take on clients when they said they weren't going to take on clients. An example of this is for our concierge tax service, we stopped taking on new clients after the first week of November. And I cannot tell you how many clients that came to me, or potential clients, reached out at the end of November and into December and even into January saying, hey, I need a tax person. Can you help? And I've said no. I've maintained my boundary even though I could have made more revenue in the thousands of dollars range, probably if I took every one of them on. But the reason that we didn't take clients on after November is that I have found if we take people on after that time with new clients, there's just always something that has to be done around cleanup of their accounting, cleanup of their tax returns. Like it's just 9 times out of 10, it's not smooth sailing. There's something extra that has to be done. And in past years, I have taken on clients in December, January, February, and it has ended up just being really difficult for me. It put a lot of extra work on me to get all of this done. And so that was a boundary that I had to install both for my own time, for my team's time, and also just to make sure we're able to deliver a high quality service. And so I had to maintain that boundary even though I missed out on revenue. Step 3 is maintaining your boundaries. Whatever boundaries you set, whether that is your time blocks, meaning on this day, I'm not scheduling meetings and you don't schedule meetings. Or I'm not going to sell this offer this next month, even if somebody comes to me asking for it. Or I'm not going to do out of scope work for free anymore, right? Answering emails at nights and on weekends, right? Whatever your boundaries are, it's so important because I think if you let your boundaries creep, then that is a cause of not having enough time because you're spending all of your time on other people's priorities instead of on your priorities. So that's why this one is in here, and that's why it's so important to making more time. So for step number 4, I am actually going to split this into 2 sub-steps. One of the sub-steps is going to be for you if you don't have a ton of extra cash flow in your business and you feel like things are tight all the time. And the other one is going to be for you business owners who have a huge stockpile of cash in your bank account, meaning you have at least 2 months or more of your ongoing expenses already funded, just sitting in your bank account, and you probably don't know what to do with that cash. And the reason that I'm splitting these into different sub-steps, I don't know if that's the right word, but the reason that I'm splitting step number 4 out is that in my experience, clients in those different situations need to focus on different things. So let's start with the business owners who don't have a ton of extra cash flow and things are feeling tight. You maybe don't have a ton of cash in your bank account. I want you to make sure that you are focusing on the tasks that will actually make you more money. And I'll give you an example of what I'm talking about. So I had a client who, they were a CFO client, and then we ended up, as part of our whole process, realizing that their current business model just wasn't really great, wasn't really profitable, and they decided to pivot. And so we decided to roll off and pull back and downgrade them to, not downgrade, but like pull back to tax only while they had a chance to go through and do, all the things on the back end and revamp, pivot their business. She was emailing me and she was like, I've pulled back on my team costs because I know I can't afford it, but I'm really drowning in the work over here. And she was still not cash flowing a lot of money. And my feedback was, if you are drowning in work, but you're not making money, that tells me you're doing something that is not actually what you need to be focusing on. Because if you're spending all of your time on these things that aren't resulting in money, then we need to shift your focus to what actually does make you money. And so in their case, it was revamping their offers and going out and really hustling for some sales. They were trying to maintain all of the other ongoing marketing and operational stuff that they didn't really need anymore, that weren't as important, prioritizing that over going to make new sales. And so your situation might not be exactly the same, but the point is, if you are hustling all the time and not making a ton of cash, then I'm guessing you are not focusing on the needle movers, the money makers. And the other thing that I'll throw in here is you may not have an offer that is profitable. So when you factor in, one of the things we focus on inside of the incubator, I have a lesson on profitable offers and a whole spreadsheet on how to calculate it. But high level, we want to make sure when you look at your offers that you're factoring in not just your costs in terms of money, like if you have to buy supplies to do a project, or if you have software costs or other team costs, but also your time. So many business owners don't actually include the value of their time when they look at the profitability of their offers. They just view, hey, all of the cash I'm making is straight profit. But the reason it's important to make sure you value your time is I want to make sure that for the time that you're putting in, the time and energy you're putting in, are you getting out enough cash to make it worthwhile? Or if you do the math on your hourly rate, is it enough? And so my guess is out of those two suggestions, one or both of those is going to be really important for you to focus on to be able to create more time and money. Now, the other step, the sub-step of step 4B, I guess, is for you business owners who have a lot of cash in your account. So I've worked with a lot of clients who come in with anywhere from 40 to 50,000 up to, I think the highest that was just sitting in a checking account that I've seen so far for a solopreneur business was about $150,000 of cash because they didn't know what to do with it. Yet they had all this cash, they didn't know what to do with it, and they were afraid to stop working because they were afraid that they were going to lose it all and not make any more. Back to that scarcity mindset. So if you are in this position where you have a lot of cash in your account, then that tells me that something is working, you're making money, and you're able to fund, the next few months of expenses in your business. If you had no sales coming in the door, could you keep going? Then what I would suggest is don't be afraid to take a little bit of a pause. Meaning, I actually had this conversation a few weeks ago with one of my incubator clients. And she had over $100,000 in her bank account, but kept taking on more and more work and kept saying, I don't have time. And so my ask was, why do you need to keep taking on more work? Why is that the priority over implementing all of these other things that you said you want to do in your business? Because you are funded for over 6 months at least to cover all of her expenses. Yet she felt like she needed to keep bringing in more money. That is the cash flow hamster wheel, right? And so maybe ask yourself, would it be okay for me to take a week off of client work and just work on projects, or 2 weeks? I will tell you, I talked about this in the Origin Story podcast, but in the spring, early summer of 2021, when I decided to pivot my business into a totally different business model, I did not take on any new clients from late April 2021 until late July or mid-July 2021. So what is that? May, June, 3 months. You don't have to be as extreme as I was. I personally needed it because I was so burned out. And I'm glad that I did what I did. But the point is, maybe it would be good for you to be able to take a pause, take a step back. Don't stress about making sales for a week or 2 or a month or 3 months if you want to be like me. And then use that time to make things better, do the things that you need to do to be able to make your business, more profitable, and then come back later. And I think you will put yourself far ahead. The other thing that you can do if you have the cash is you can go ahead and make some investments. Make some investments into hiring somebody to take some of the work off your plate. So back to that time audit, right? Where are you spending a ton of your time, and where can you also outsource or delegate some of that work to other people so that you can use that time for something else? If you have the cash, why not do it? What would it take for you to at least make that investment back, if not, 3 to 5x the investment? It might also be not an investment in hiring. Maybe it's an investment in systems or processes to make your life easier. Maybe it's just an investment in, sales and marketing. Whatever it is taking up a lot of your time, I think if you have the cash, don't be afraid to use it, and you will make more time for yourself and you will make more money. So there you have it. My 4 steps in a nutshell to creating more time in your business so that you can ultimately make more money. It was probably 5 steps, because step 1 or step 0 is Acknowledge if you have a scarcity mindset, if you're afraid to spend your time doing something different because you're afraid that you won't make more money. Do a time audit for a week or two. I like to do 2 weeks because it gives you a really solid picture of what is actually going on. Sit down and try to figure out how you could schedule your week out and implement time blocks and include unscheduled time, y'all. It is life-changing to have the freedom of time to, be able to do whatever you want to do. Ask yourself if you are maintaining boundaries around your time, your meetings, the work you're doing, the offers, all that stuff, over-promising on turnaround time. Ask yourself if there's any boundaries that you can shore up. And again, go back to the mindset of, am I doing this out of a scarcity mindset? And how can I reframe this to kind of start removing the fear away? And then the last piece, if you feel like your cash flow is tight, then are you actually focusing on the things that make you more money? Are you putting your time and energy where it actually needs to go? And do you need to revamp your offer structure? That one's really not related to time. That one's just a CFO tip. And on the other hand, if you have a good bit of cash in your business, then what would it take for you to pull back on your workload and invest some of your time and money into other things that will help you create more time and create more money? So I hope that this was helpful. And if this episode speaks to you and you're like, hey, I would really love to be able to get past the self-employed solopreneur stage, start seeing how the numbers might work to be able to build a business that can run without you, that can pay you a CEO salary, and it creates cash flow that you can use to invest in building your own wealth. That is what we do inside of the Millionaire CEO Incubator. So if that speaks to you, then I want you to go and apply. We take on a handful of new clients every month by application. So if you are interested, go to profitandprosper.co/apply. It should take 2 or 3 minutes for you to apply, and we will be in touch within a business day or so, with follow-up and next steps for you. So go check that out. If you like the episode, make sure you share it with a friend, share it and tag me in your Instagram. I love to see what resonates with all of y'all, and I will see you back next week. Thanks for listening to this week's episode. Now, I want you to go take some action. What's one thing you can do this week to create more profit in your business? Send me a DM on Instagram at YoungCoCFO and share your action item with me. If you have a question or topic you'd like me to dive into, or if you're feeling empowered about taking charge of your finances, let's continue the conversation. Go to profitandprosper.co to submit a question or topic for me to talk about on the show. And because we all profit and prosper better with friends, please leave me a review on Apple Podcasts, subscribe wherever you listen, and share the episode. Make sure you tag me at YoungCoCFO on Instagram so I can give you some love, and I'll see you in the next episode.